guys, in this video I wanted to make another 2D face cake. This time I thought I'd have a go at a little cartoony zebra. So I'm starting with an 11-inch cake. I've just got a little chocolate cake here and I'm going to fill in between the two pieces of my cake with buttercream. So let's put the top layer on. Now I've put it on a 15-inch board, slightly closer to the bottom of the board than it is to the top. And we're going to start by creating a bit of a shape. So making this shape up as we go along. But if you prefer, you can cut out a template and then draw around that. So we've cut a little diagonal at the top left, we've cut a tiny bit off top right, and then we'll cut out like a little triangle from the bottom. And we've rounded it around the bottom of what will be the nose. Then we cut in slightly just under the jawline, where its jaw will be, and then I've angled the cake just underneath. So cut a little strip off the top. So the top bit, I've just cut through the top layer of my cake, leaving the bottom layer underneath sticking up for like what will be the main. Cut a little bit more off the nose at the front, the mane just a little bit longer, so I'm going to use my offcuts of cake to just add to that. And let's just curve the edge of my cake now so it's a little bit less square looking. Taking quite a bit off at sort of the front of the nose, and then we're cutting a little bit out where I want the eye area to be so it dips down. And I'm going to use chocolate buttercream on this one, just because I've made another cake that I've made plenty of chocolate buttercream for, but sometimes I will use chocolate ganache as well. Now you do really want to give it a little bit more of a smooth, and you can also pat it down with like a cake cloth, and I'll put links to the cake cloth below just to smooth it out a little bit. And I'm just using a white fondant, and I've rolled it big enough to cover my whole horse's head or zebra's head, and I'm just going to rub it down gently, trying to push it between sort of the gap under its chin and chest. Press down tightly all the way around the bottom edge, and then we can trim off all the extra. I will put links to everything I've used in the description box below. For an eye, I've kind of rolled a little oval and squished it, but then I've cut just a little bit off the bottom. So can you see it's at a slight slant? We've pushed it in that little eye socket. Then we're going to push in a little piece of black. I'm going to squish it so, again, it's about an oval shape. Now for our eyelash, I've rolled a piece that's nice and thin and pointy at one end. That end's going to come towards like the back of the eye. It's going to come across diagonally and upwards. And it's got, can you see, a thicker end at the top. So just a small piece then that we're going to roll, again of black, that's just going to sit just underneath the eye. Just with the eye being white and the head being white, need to darken it with those eyelashes. Okay, so let's press in now for the mouth. And I'm just going to use the back of my Dresden tool, so the pointy end of it, to push in sort of under the chin, or just above the chin I should say. Don't go too far up the face, and then we'll put a little curve at the top of it so our zebra looks happy. Let's just give a bit of a sparkle to the eye with a small ball of white that we're going to push down there. And then an even smaller one just below. Now, I'm just using black fondant. Now, the black fondant is very soft and quite sticky, so if you prefer, you can add a pinch of Tylose if you want to firm it up a little bit. And I'm going to roll it in really nice and thin. Now, I've rolled it big enough that it just covers the end of my nose, and I've just cut a little bit of a curve in. But actually when we stick it on, I'm going to move it around to where I want it to go anyway. So I've kind of stuck it on the top section of the nose. I've brought it sort of further up the face. I've curved it round so it starts coming to kind of downwards. And then where the mouth is, can you see I've pushed it so it comes out a little bit further. And then I can feel through to the line that was on my mouth underneath. And I'm just going to draw through that again with my Dresden tool. And let's give him a little nostril. Just make sure this stays on the black section of the nose. You can even use a balling tool for this if you prefer. I'm just using my Dresden tool again. And we're going to put a strip of black just along the very top of the mane. So I've rolled like a long snake shape, and then we're just rolling it out a little bit. And let's see if we can stick it on here now. Because my black fondant is quite sticky, I've not had to use any water or anything to attach this. But if you find your fondant isn't sticking, just brush a tiny bit of water just underneath and it will make this stick. So again, using the pointy end of my Dresden tool, we're kind of dragging the fondant downwards. So it's not a nice straight piece of fondant anymore. We want it to look more like hair. And this is where it is good that my fondant is soft and my black fondant's soft, because it's easy to drag lines through it and push it around to where I want it to go. In fact, let's put some lines in my white fondant before we start adding our stripes. So I'm just pushing in some lines. You can see where I've pressed quite hard. It's kind of pierced through the fondant a little bit. So just be careful of that. And then we're just going to add our black fondant. You can see where I haven't put it thick enough. I'm just sort of pressing a little bit harder just to widen it. Just straighten up at the edges, and then I'll put some more lines through. And we're going to do this all the way down. So I've cut, can you see some little strips? They're a bit long, but that's fine. I can go over those in a minute and trim off all the extra. Or if you want, you could leave them long and wrap them just around the edge of the mane if you prefer. Then we've got some more black just rolled out nice and thin. And we're just going to start cutting some stripes now. To be honest, I don't think I really match this with how our actual zebra's stripes sit. So, you know, have a look at different pictures and see what directions you want the stripes to go in. I've tried to keep some a little bit smaller, some a little bit bigger. I didn't want to do loads and loads. Although, to be honest, I ended up with more than I was planning on putting on it. You see the bottom one there, I kind of split in two at the bottom. Let's put a fairly thick one up here. I've tried to cut this one so it looks like it's just disappearing behind the jawline. Let's go a little bit smaller or thinner as I'm coming more to sort of the bottom side of the face. I don't mind them being a little bit chunkier on the neck, but on the face I want them that little bit smaller. And have a play around with directions. Again, mine don't really go in the directions that real zebras would probably go in. Let's put some thinner ones just by the nose and just break them off where they meet the black bit of the nose. There's kind of a space there, so I'm going to put one in, but can you see I've curved the bottom of it so it almost looks like it fits around the eye. Again, I've got another gap there, so we'll put like a long thin triangle in there and maybe even one just in front of the eye there. And like I say, you know, you don't have to have these stripes in the same place if you prefer them, you know, elsewhere. So my ear, I've got a little bit of my leftover white fondant. Roll to a teardrop shape and kind of squish it a little bit with your hands, not too flat. And I'm just putting a small ball of white paste just on the mane where I want it to sit because it will flop backwards slightly. I want it to sit quite upright, so that small ball will be hidden. I'm just going to roll a thin strip of black to put on either side of my ear. A little bit like we did on the edge of the mane. Not too big. I was looking at pictures and some of the pictures didn't look like the black went quite to the top. But now I've done that, I'm thinking I should have probably taken the black right to the top of the ear. But we've put lines through just the same way as we did on the mane. We've kind of pinched it together at the bottom. Use a bit of water if it's not sticking. And then I'm using some edible pink dust inside the ear. I'm thinking maybe a tiny bit on the eyelid, but not too much. Then let's create a background. So I didn't want it too bright green for my background, so I kind of went for a bit of brown and green mixed together. You can see I left it a little bit marbled, although you don't really notice this too much actually when I do put it on, but the plan was for it to look a little bit marbled. So I'm going to try and wrap it around the edge of my cake. So I've kind of cut out a little bit of a triangle there where it's going to go in front of the mane. It's a little bit short there, so we'll piece an extra bit in. Let's trim these bits off. Now I have left lots of lines and seams on this one, but I was going to add some like blades of dried looking grass on there. Cut off all the extra from around the edge of your board. Then we can add our blades of grass. I've put thinner ones in the background, and then as I've come further to the front, I've rolled them and left them a little bit chunkier, so they're a little bit more 3D. And because it's quite a pale browny green, I'm just using a bit of spring green just to brush onto my blades of grass, just to brighten it up just slightly. Again, I'm just using the dry dusts for this. You can finish it off with a little ribbon around your cake board. I'm quite enjoying doing the face cakes, especially the jungle themed ones, so I might even do another jungle themed one next week, so keep an eye out for that one. So there it is, all finished. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and more.